Hey, 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 party people. This is Leah Lachlan here, and welcome back to the Brain Book series. There are several little mini training videos that I'm creating to break down the Brain Book and explain the why behind it and train on the tools that are in there so it can be the most effective tool that it can be for you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 15-day tracking sheet here real quick. But before I do that, I do want to just mention some pretty obvious things of how I use the month at a glance and then the weeks at a glance. And so my month at a glance, I really use for bigger events, okay, or bigger appointments, or things that are maybe outside of just the normal routine. Okay, so I'm not writing a whole lot of detail on the month at a glance because I really just want to get a broad overview of like the bigger events, bigger appointments, things that aren't just a normal part of my daily, weekly routine. Okay, so then, of course, those are also plugged into your week at a glance. And then your week at a glance is the more detailed breakdown of your week. So I just wanted to describe how I use those two. But more than that, I want to get into the 15-day tracking sheet and sort of explain how this came about. All right, that's the page. And there's a couple of thoughts behind that, behind this. First of all, what it's titled, I can do anything for 15 days. Sometimes it's a challenge to focus for an entire month. And to keep the vision really clear and to even remember what you're committed to. And so whenever you can take something and just break it down to a smaller, more bite-sized chunk or time frame, it supports your focus. Okay, so I can do anything for 15 days, and you've got this one sheet to look at, and the goal is just to fill it up so there's no blank spaces. That's the goal. And I designed it to be things that any sales director at any level, that if you focus on just the sheet, just filling in the blanks, checking off the boxes, making sure there's little to no blank space on this page at the end of 15 days, girl, you are killing it. You are killing it when you do that. It is focused on mainly personal business, okay? Your own beauty experiences, your own personal career surveys, okay? So that's a big chunk of it. But then it's got some unit stuff, who you're in front of for your unit. That includes meetings, guest events, business debuts, career surveys, and sharing appointments with your unit members. And then it's got the agreements you're adding for the month to your unit. And it's got your Power Program Achievers. It's got your red jackets that you're working with. And then you can track your SDWs, your small daily wins, and identify what those are. We're going to get more into that in another video because there's a lot more I want to say about that. And so we're sort of taking the big, huge seminar goal, or your big monthly goal, or your big quarterly goal, and we're just breaking it down to a small time frame to support your focus. That you could just go, boom, and look at this sheet and laser focus on these activities that really lead to anything and everything else that you want in your Mary Kay business for that seminar year. All right? And so it's taking what's big and simplifying it. It's taking large numbers and breaking them down to smaller numbers, okay, which again supports your focus. And the goal is to have little to no blank space or white space when the 15 days is done. Okay, so let me explain another sort of why behind this. This came about when I read the very incredible book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And it's a book about the power of habits. And it really breaks down what a habit is, how it's developed, how you replace it. It's incredibly fascinating and goes a lot into how our brains work and how habits impact even the chemical processes that happen in our brains and in our bodies. And part of that book talks about how habits create culture. And the habits of every individual within an organization helps to create the culture of that organization. Okay, so Mary Kay Ash herself did this so beautifully. She modeled, she defined, she stood for certain habits that she wanted her company and her organization to be known for, and essentially taught certain habits and ways of working and living and thinking and treating people. Okay, so for example, the go give spirit. Um, the golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated. The adopted program is another example of certain habits that she wanted people to abide by that contribute to the culture of who we are as the Mary Kay community. And so that's the 10-foot deeper why behind this 15-day tracking sheet are just certain habits that it's important for leaders to develop. And as leaders develop this, it grows her business, but it also contributes to an impactful and an incredible and positive culture. Okay, so to do this 15-day tracking sheet, to really actually fill it out and do those activities and to have little to no blank space left, yes, you're working your Mary Kay business and doing income producing activities, but it's so much more than that. The habits you are creating are consistency and personal responsibility and work ethic and follow up and follow through and valuing people. This has a lot to do with people and who you're in front of, who you're investing your time in. And so as you do this work, you're doing income producing activity, but at the same time, and possibly the more far reaching thing that's unfolding in your life is you're creating these habits, these ways that you do life and business. You're establishing how you roll as a leader. And the thing about these things becoming habits is, man, once these things become habits, and once these things become more effortless, what happens is it frees you up, frees your energy and your willpower up to start more intensely developing yourself and developing leaders. Okay, so when your personal business starts to run like a machine, starts to really become a habit, where you can kind of do this and do this activity, yes, with effort and energy, but maybe not the same level of effort and energy that it takes to create a habit. You know, in the beginning, when you're creating a habit and establishing a new discipline in your life, it takes willpower and energy and effort. I mean, I remember my first few power starts doing 30 faces in 30 days. I remember my first few book 10s by the 5th, where I set up my month on the front end with lots of parties on the date book. And the effort that went into it, oh my goodness, it just seemed like this daunting effort to reach these goals and to complete these tasks. But then I did it and I did it and I did it and I did it. And amazingly enough, what was once hard what eventually became a habit, and habits are what make the hard stuff seem easy. And when the hard stuff becomes a habit, it makes the journey feel a whole lot different. And I really got to a point where I would have had to try harder to not do a power start, to not do a book 10 by the 5th, than to do it, because it was just a habit. It was how I rolled. It became a machine. It operated smoothly. It became very systematic. And then I didn't have to invest all this energy and effort into it. It became very much more effortless and was just happening. And that freed up my energy and effort to more intensely focus on the development of leaders and the development of our national area and my own personal development. And that, my friends, is part of the picture of how we were able to build a top trip unit very quickly. And then 5 years later, a national area was birthed out of that top trip unit. Okay. Now, I didn't use the 15-day tracking sheet because I hadn't created it or developed it at that point. But if I really broke down what I did and put it on one piece of paper, this was it. This was the focus. These were the numbers. This was the activity happening. This was the daily, weekly effort I was putting forth. So there you have it. 15-day tracking sheet. Have you tried it? Have you used it? Have you started to implement it in the way you work on a daily and weekly basis? Because if you can get this piece, like really sink your teeth into it and wrap your hands around it, and allow these things to become more of a habit in your business, I mean, watch out, here you come. Okay, stay tuned for the next Brain Book video.